Hey guys, this is Neon. Welcome back to Clownfish TV. With me is our good friend Peter Simeti from Alterna Comics. Say hello, Peter.
Hey Neon, how's it going?
It's going great. We're going to check in with Peter and talk about all the exciting stuff going on with Alterna right now. And if you guys haven't checked out Alterna Comics, hopefully you will after this video. We'll be back right after this quick break. Thinking about printing your own comic books, graphic novel, or manga? We recommend our friends over at Print Ninja. We've been using Print Ninja as long as they've been printing comics, and both the quality and price is excellent. Mention Clownfish TV and get an additional 5% overrun of your book order quantity printed for free. For free! That's free books, people. Just mention this offer on the phone or in the additional information box on the quote request form. That's printninja.com, or click on the link in the description below. All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm here with Peter Simeti. This is Clownfish TV, and we're going to talk about comic books and independent comic books. I know a lot of you out there have questions about the comic book industry, how it works, maybe making and distributing your own comics, and hopefully our friend Peter can help you out with that.
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right, so Peter, why don't you tell people a little bit about Alterna Comics? Because I know some of our viewers, well, we picked up a lot more viewers in the last few months, I think, since you've been on the show. A lot of our viewers actually aren't familiar with Alterna, so if you could maybe tell us a little bit about the company and how you came into being and what kind of material you publish, I think that'd be a good starting point.
Well, congratulations too on all the growth. It's been great seeing you guys take off like this. It's something that I look to all the time as inspiration for my own channel and everything else. And it's great to see you guys expanding and growing.
Oh, thank you. Happy accident, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
but thank you.
Yeah, it's great. You guys are doing a great job. So about Alterna. So Alterna started in 2006. It mostly started off as just a self-publishing kind of thing for me. I was looking around trying to get the feel for the comic industry at the time, and there were a couple publishers. I thought maybe one day I'll submit something to them, but I didn't feel I was ready just yet. But I wanted to get stuff out there in the meanwhile. And I came up with Alterna because it just sounded better than Simeti Studios or Pete's Comics or something like that. And Alterna just was short for alternative. I wanted to have an alternative to what was being offered, and we mostly just put out my own books. So it wasn't anyone else's. I know some people think Alterna just started right off to the races, and we got distribution and everything else, but we grew very slowly. So it was just my stuff for about 6 months, and I started getting a lot of submissions over that time, and a lot of people in the same kind of scenario where they had their own book and they wanted to get picked up, and they were submitting it all around, and they all had the same story for the most part, trying to submit my book here, submit my book there, and I'm just getting rejected or not even getting a response. And I'm seeing a lot of people at the time, they were really talented. And I figured, eventually it kind of wore me down a bit, and I figured, well, maybe we can do something. Maybe we could work together. I can get the books out there, and we can just start slow. We could do print on demand. We can do local shows. We can sell direct to stores, and just not really enter mass distribution just yet. So we did that for about a year and a half, and then around 2008, we got distribution by Diamond. And at that point in time, we only really put out graphic novels for distribution. We kind of stopped doing print on demand because that wouldn't really be feasible for distribution. And we just concentrated on getting graphic novels out there. Shortly after, we got picked up for book distribution into Barnes & Noble, Amazon, all the traditional places. And we kind of just did that for around 10, 11 years, mostly just putting out graphic novels. Then around 2014, 2015, I noticed the market started getting pretty full, pretty flooded with graphic novels. Everybody seemed to have one. The store space forum really was getting just completely eaten up. And I noticed that return rates were getting higher, and the amount of times they'd be in the store. It went from something like 6 months to 3 months to sometimes even a month before the store would return the book, because they have so much coming in and they need to move product quickly. So the turnover rate was really high. And at that point in time, if you're going to be putting out graphic novels into mass distribution, you'd think there's a longer shelf life involved. So you don't expect to see a book that went out in a month getting returned back as if it was a floppy on the newsstand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought this isn't good. We gotta switch it up. And that's when the idea to do newsprint came along. But I couldn't figure out the printer to use, because all the offset printers I talked to, they wouldn't take on newsprint. Their system couldn't use it. But meanwhile, I see newsprint everywhere. Newsprint is available all over the place. Eventually, I realized it was a web press printer was what we needed. So as soon as I started looking for a web press printer, the whole scope of things opened up completely, and all it was about finding the right printer at the right price that can do all these jobs, the size we need, the paper stock we wanted, and the whole world opened up with that. So we did the newsprint single issues, average price $1.50, because the newsprint is so much more affordable. It's about a third of the cost from other printers that I was looking at for single issues at the time, and it took off for us. And so that was 2017. We debuted that in May 2017. It hit stands, and we have newsstand distribution as well. So we're getting the books into about half of Barnes and Nobles, about 80% of Books A Million, and we even recently got a deal with Sheets. And Sheets, for those of you that don't know, is kind of like a 7-Eleven, kind of like a Cumberland Farms, a Wawa, that kind of thing. And the funniest part with that deal was that it was mostly to get comics out there again in places that they used to be, in front of people who maybe didn't know that comics were still around, because unfortunately that's a comment that we receive a lot. Even sometimes at a Comic-Con, we have people coming up confused that these are new comics and that they still make new comic books, because they just don't see them anywhere anymore. They used to see them at grocery stores, convenience stores, that kind of thing, and they don't really see them there, so they think that they just don't make them anymore. And the funny thing with the Sheets deal was that we were trying to keep the lid on it a bit, and that didn't really work out. We were trying to keep the lid because we wanted to announce it for San Diego Comic-Con this year, and people were discovering them at the store, and they were sending us emails, sending us tweets, Facebook messages, all that kind of stuff. I'm seeing the books here. Did you guys get a deal? Did you guys get a deal? And eventually we just caved in and we admitted it, and the cat was out of the bag. But that was great though, because we didn't promote that we were in those stores and people were finding the books. In many cases, it was people that they were just loosely kind of aware of Alterna, and in some cases they weren't aware of us at all. So they were finding the books there and then getting in touch with us. And in 3 or 4 cases, because we've got ads in the books to direct people to local comic shops, they were going then to their local comic shop that they've never been to before. One guy told us, said, I saw the ad in the book about going to the comic shop locator, and I looked up my zip code, found a shop that was about 5-10 miles away, and I didn't know they were there because my shop closed years ago. And I just stopped going. I didn't look anymore. I just kind of got out of the hobby. I really loved that store. And I just figured I didn't see them anymore in the other stores. I didn't see them at 7-Elevens, everything else. They stopped making new comics. But this person now started going to their local comic shop because they found our books at Sheets. So that was great to hear. It was great to hear that even with no promotion at all, just having the books in those stores, people were finding them, and that's what this is all about. And we really want to get comics in more places, because they should be in as many places as possible. And there's so many readers out there that don't even know that they still make these things. And especially with Alterna, it's kind of funny, because it's not just nostalgic for the newsprint, but we even have people that are younger, that are college age, and it's retro to them, or it's completely different, and they appreciate the price point too, because they can purchase comics and they can read great comics without having to break the bank.
Yeah, no, that's so cool about it, because it really is like a throwback. I mean, a lot of us who grew up in the 80s, 90s reading, Marvel and DC comics, our first introduction to comic books usually was from a convenience store, a bookstore, not a comic book shop. I didn't go to a comic book shop until probably 1990. and I was buying pretty much everything Marvel put out, 4 or 5 years before that, because I would go to the local newsstand and buy it.
Yeah, yeah. And the comic shops were great too, because it all worked in tandem with the newsstand, because newsstand, they don't really have the breadth of titles. They don't really have a back stock. So if you were missing, a bunch of issues, you probably couldn't find them on newsstand. You maybe could find last month's, or even if you were lucky, 2 or 3 months ago. But the comic shop was the place to find back issues, more merchandise, a larger variety of titles. And they worked together really well, because the newsstand was all out and about. It was kind of the boots on the ground, getting stuff in front of people. And then the comic shop was the place where, after you discovered and fell in love with comics that you found on the newsstand, whether that was a convenience store, of course, because you say newsstand, everyone thinks, oh, it's an outside vendor and they've got them set up, but it's anywhere that carries magazines. And then you'd find them, you'd fall in love with comics, and you'd go, where are there more of these? And you'd go and you'd find a local comic shop, and it worked really well that way. And then when they started pulling them out of newsstand, because they didn't really want to deal with returnability, and the sell-through rate obviously is smaller, even though the larger print run was more attractive to advertisers, and it just got the books out there, because you can't replace that kind of exposure unless you plan on doing marketing on television or elsewhere. Yeah. That worked great just to get the comics in front of people when you took them out of that area in mass too. Not even you were leaving a couple of them everywhere, but all of them basically gone for the most part. It really was just a shock to the system of the industry.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time. I mean, I remember, a lot of the bookstores, local bookstores had spinner racks. The first time I saw a Dark Horse comic was actually at a local bookstore. And I remember, because I'm like, oh, wait, there are other companies besides Marvel and DC? I had no idea. Because all I ever saw at the local convenience store, all I ever saw at the newsstand was Marvel and DC. And here we had, Dark Horse. We had, I think, Now Comics was out. Back then, Comic.
Oh man, I got a bunch of Now Comics. Boy, oh boy, that takes me back.
Yeah, they were great. I love Speed Racer. Speed Racer comic was really good, and the Ghostbusters comic. I used to read Ghostbusters.
Yeah, and Green Hornet and Fright Night.
Yeah, and I remember they were like really expensive, because I was used to the Marvel books being like 75 cents or $1, and the Now comics were like $1.75. But they had that prestige, format to them, and but I remember it's like, man, I can get one Now comic, or I can get 2 Marvels. I really got to think about this, and I think that's really where it's come down to with readers now, where it's like, man, $3.99 a pop. That's it's either that, or I can go rent a movie, or I can go download an app, or I can
Yeah.
So the price point's definitely attractive.
That's it's true about that too, because we always think, well, we're in comics, we're all competing against each other, and on some level, yes, we are. But largely, what we're more competing against is everything else. All the other things that are vying for your entertainment dollar. It's not just Marvel competing with DC, or Alterna competing with every other publisher, and so on and so forth. We're competing with Netflix. We're competing with apps. We're competing with everything and anything that can take up your time and your interest. So to look at it only as that the comic publishers, the comic creators, that we're all just kind of going at each other, and that's all we have to worry about, that's the wrong way to look at it, I find. And if anything, that's, I think, a symptom of the fact that we're only really existing within the comic shop walls. It creates this kind of false sense of, there's only us, and then there's no outside world. The thing is, comics, again, we're self-defeating. We need to get in front of people. We can't have this mentality where, well, they're in the comic shop, people will find us. We can't do that. It's too much Field of Dreams. We made the comic, they'll come. No, it's not going to happen. We have to make sure that people are aware, and getting them in front of people. Because if it doesn't exist, I could say something like, I love Skippy peanut butter or something like that, whatever. But you could have never seen that in your whole entire life, and you don't know what that is. But yet the rest of the world could know what that is. But you just don't know because you've never seen it. It's not in the store near you, anything like that. So if you never see it, it doesn't exist. And that's how comics largely are for most people. And I always say that there's 2 kinds of people out there. There's one that loves comics and they read them. And then the other kind of person just doesn't know about comics yet.
It's a good way to look at it. I mean, I remember when comics really were. I mean, they talk about, comics being for everyone, but I remember when comics really were for like everybody. Like, everybody bought comic books. That's why they were selling hundreds of thousands of copies on average, Marvel and DC, because it was definitely a viable mainstream entertainment option. And,
yeah, it wasn't this niche kind of product where only certain kinds of people, or even worse. And I love collectors in the market. I'm a collector myself, but I'm a reader. I'm a fan first and foremost. But as soon as the publishers started really catering to the collectors, splashing it all over every issue. This is a collector's item, all that kind of stuff. It started becoming a very small hobby. It started shrinking that. It started getting away from the accessibility that everyone and anyone can and should be reading a comic. It became this thing where it's just really for collectors and diehards. And the thing is, if you're not already a diehard fan, you never will end up really being one. You always have to start somewhere. So we have to have that accessibility, because that's how you create diehard fans. So if you never have it where comics are in front of just the average person anywhere, largely too non-readers, because that's how you get a reader, is they're first a non-reader. We're not all born with the inherent knowledge of comic books. I know that they're everywhere, and people who are into comics think, well, how do you not know about a comic book? But you'd be surprised. There's tons of people that don't know about them and don't know which ones are out there or what's going on in them, or a million different things that are happening in them that maybe they only know really because they saw a film or a show or something that has to do with comics. And most of them, largely, they don't know that there's so many other stories and publishers and just the large amount of titles that are out there. So it's important to get these things in front of people.
Yeah, I think that's where, we've talked on here before about manga versus American comics. I think that's where the Japanese absolutely get it right, is that, manga it's cheap, it's easily accessible, and they have stories for everybody, every age, every demographic. Everybody's reading comics.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're definitely doing it right, getting it everywhere and making it so that it's not just catering to one audience or one type of audience or one kind of book. There's all kinds of manga. Most people, they associate superheroes with comic books, whereas with manga, I don't know if there's a definable genre for manga. I certainly don't think of it that way.
No, there's manga for little kids. There's manga for 75-year-old women. I mean, it's like it's all over
that's
the
just
place.
the way you tell the story. It's like movies.
Yeah,
movies aren't synonymous with action movies or something. It's movies are movies. But with comics in America, especially in North America, it seems like it's so synonymous still with superheroes.
Which is weird, because there's a lot of like derision kind of thrown at. They call them Cape comics, but the Cape comics have sort of become the bread and butter of the industry, and I think we sort of painted ourselves into a corner in that regard.
Yeah, agreed.
So, Alterna, now what kind of books do you publish at Alterna? You don't publish a lot of superhero stuff, do you?
No, I say we've got right now we've got close to 30 titles in circulation, and maybe four or five of them are superhero.
Okay.
Largely, I think what we seem to publish is sci-fi related material, action material, but we do have horror, fantasy, all kinds of different titles. Everything at Alterna is creator-owned too. So Alterna doesn't own characters. We don't come up with stories and characters and then hire people to write them or work on them. A creative team brings the story to Alterna through a submission. And then I evaluate whether I think it'll be a good fit, whether the creative team looks like they really care about their comic. I see how they promote, especially on social media. I see how they carry themselves. Number one, first and foremost, I see if they follow the submission guidelines. That's always important. Large amount of submissions, sadly, don't. They don't follow them. So, and one of the biggest ways they don't follow them is this. So we ask for submissions 5 to 8 pages sequentially, preferably to start in the beginning. So people instead will pick and choose some of their favorite pages and go, okay, maybe I like the way that this came out, or I like the face on here, or I like the shot here. And the thing is, they might look great, sure. But as a story, I can't get a sense of your ability as a storyteller at that point. I look at that and I go, okay, either they don't know how to tell a story because this is really disjointed, or they pick and choose what they want to send, and then they sent that along. And that's usually always the case. So make sure you send stuff as per the submission guidelines of the publisher you want to submit to. And in a case like that too, I want to always see how is the story going to come out? How can you tell the story, the pacing, all that kind of stuff. So it's always best to send stuff sequentially. It's not a portfolio review, so you're not looking at it going, well, I want to make sure that's the best art, all kinds of different layouts or whatever it is. I want to get a sense of the story. I don't want to necessarily get a sense of, how flashy you can draw certain things or anything like that. And the other part, of course, with submissions is always funny when they send a blanketed submission, and it'll have another publisher's name on the cover letter.
Dear Eric Larson, Peter Simeti, please take a look at my. Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't think the spray and pray technique works anymore in comics, especially since the industry is shrinking. It used to be that you could send out submission packets, and I remember back when I was trying to break in, sending submission packets out, you'd send them to multiple editors at the same company because you never knew which one would actually like your stuff, and there were so many companies out there and they were always looking for work. And now it's I don't know if any, Alterna is one of the few that I can think of that actually does have open submissions. Most
I can't think of many either. No.
Yeah, Marvel did for years, and I got my my Wally Wood panels that always work, and I got my letter from the submissions editor telling me what I needed to work on. I probably got 10 of those, and they used to have their submissions editor there. I actually got to meet him in person one time. But yeah, it's pretty much a closed door system now, and it seems like the best way to break into comics is just make comics, and hopefully, the publishers, you'll find a publisher that will either pick your stuff up or just have a happy accident of your own, and hook up somehow with some kind of a publisher or self-publishing or whatever.
Yeah, that's the irony too, is that a lot of them say, well, do your own stuff and build an audience and get a following going, and then we'll find you. Don't call us, we call you. And the thing is that I go, well, if you're an independent creator and you've built up a large enough audience to get attention from one of these big companies, you don't need them. So you continue to grow, continue to build. At that point in time, if you were to sign with the bigger company after growing your big audience, you end up kind of almost rebranding yourself in a way, and you lose that steam, that momentum you've been building on your own. And you sacrifice that to potentially get maybe a bigger audience at another publisher, but you lose all of that you built up, and then you have to shift gears all over again when you leave those companies. You don't necessarily bring that audience with you, which is the case for a lot of creators. Have noticed that.
That happens a lot with webcomics. I'll tell you the truth. There are a lot of webcomickers that they were doing their webcomic and they had a pretty sizable online audience. And then they decided to jump the fence and go, with a print publisher, whether it's a Scholastic or First Second or whatever. And people thought they died. They're like, where did you go? And then when the book finally came out, because, those graphic novels take 2-3 years sometimes to come out, they kind of lost their momentum and people forgot who they were.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen it happen on multiple occasions where the book just landed with a thud. Or then the other one, like you said, if you're doing it yourself, I've seen crowdfunding campaigns where, the people raise a couple $100,000. It's like, well, if you can raise a couple $100,000, why do you need a publisher? Why do you want to give them a cut? Why do you want them to have editorial control over your book? I guess I can see getting it into book fairs or getting it into a larger market like that. But, having been on the other side of it, we see how much control you kind of have to give up too. And, you just have to ask yourself, is it really worth it? I don't know. That's a personal question, I think, for most creators.
Yeah. I think if you have been doing it for so long and you've been used to being more an entrepreneur than just a comic creator, you've been used to running your business essentially. You're going to find that it's better to just continue doing that than it is to all of a sudden switch gears and now you work on a licensed property essentially. Comics is strange. I find that in comics, you work really hard. Some people work really, really hard to be the cover band, to be the really good cover band, as opposed to being the main act, the main thing, the thing that people, be more of a trend setter than a trend follower, kind of blaze your own path a bit. I find it in comics more than anything else. That seems to be the norm. And that's what people think is the dream, is to work on a character that's been around for a long time instead of really building their own characters and their own stories. And for some people, thankfully, it's not the case. They really want to work on their own stuff. So that's great. And I think that we've been seeing a lot of that lately too, which is really, I think, really the way to go. It's very promising, and especially right now is the absolute best time to have that mindset.
Yeah, because there's been a real dearth. I mean, especially at Marvel and DC of new characters. I mean, it used to be when we were growing up reading comics, like they always had new characters being added to the Avengers and the X-Men. They would try new characters, they'd give them miniseries, whatever. And now it just seems like they just constantly repurpose or reinvent the same characters over and over and over again. I don't know if it's the creatives working on those books don't want to give away their own creations, when you're work for hire, or what, but you just don't see new characters being created like there used to be.
Yeah. I think that definitely has something to do with it. From what I've seen and a couple people I've talked to, it definitely does seem like that they go, well, I do have some great ideas for stories and characters, but I feel like I'd rather keep that, go to the bigger publishers, maybe hopefully grow an audience there, and then take them with me, hopefully. And then I can do my big story there with the really great characters I have in mind. And again, if you're a creator and you can do it right by really connecting with your readers that you have while you're there, because you obviously can't take that company's character with you, but you definitely could take their readers with you if you engage properly and you're great with them and you're really communicative and just awesome with them. If you're someone who, you show up and you think, you got it made because you got this job at one of these companies and kind of like, to hell with the readers and who cares about them. I'm a big shot now. If you kind of have that kind of attitude, it's going to be very difficult for you to take that readership with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you got to figure out, are the readers there for you, or are they there because, they like Spider-Man? It doesn't matter who's writing or drawing Spider-Man. They're just into Spider-Man comics and you just happen to be the person doing it that month.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, let's talk more about some of what you have in the pipeline here. Now, you have an IndieGoGo campaign. Let's talk about that. Alterna 2 Newsprint's Revenge. And that's actually ending pretty soon, but we want to give people an opportunity to back that. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, Alterna is a really fun event campaign. We try to do event campaigns at Alterna. Individual creators will have their own campaigns, of course, for their books. But at Alterna, when we have something, we try to really make it all about either a specific kind of getting the community together sort of thing, or we're doing a merchandising campaign or something fun. So Alterna is all about using our comics as trick-or-treats. And you can get them at a really nice discount. And it enables you to use them as trick-or-treats. But also, it's something that's interesting too, because last year I didn't really understand this at the time, but we had people that also wanted to get these bundles and donate them to a library, children's hospital, the troops. Last year we donated, I think, close to 5,000 comics to various charities and organizations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, especially for the kids in children's hospitals, giving them something fun to get for Halloween too, so they can take part in that kind of a day without, having to worry about candy and food and all those regulations that they obviously most likely cannot have. Mm-hmm. This was a really nice thing for them. And to me, Alterna, the funnest part about this whole campaign is the fact that you've got all these kids, they're dressed up. It's almost like, Halloween Comic-Con is the same sort of thing.
Right.
But minus the cavities, I guess, at Comic-Con. So you go door to door, you're in your costume, you're doing your trick-or-treating. And imagine, the kids that come to this house and they've got comic books too. And now the Alterna comics are great because you can roll them up old school style. Mm-hmm. And a lot of houses were putting in king-size candy bars. in the comics too.
Oh, that's cool.
What a popular house, I'm guessing.
Yeah, right.
So all these kids, and we had a lot of pictures last year that people were sending to us. They'd be dressed up. They have these ear-to-ear smiles with their comics and everything else. And it turned it into a fun event with the comic books. And for a lot of those kids, too, they were even telling people, this is my first ever comic book.
Oh, wow.
And that's the thing that's great about Alternaween, because like we were just talking about earlier, comics aren't in places anymore. They're not in enough places. You don't see them anywhere. And kids especially, they don't really see comics anywhere. Everybody goes, well, kids just don't want to read comics anymore. Yeah, some kids, they might never get into comics. That's absolutely true. But if they never see them, of course they're not going to get into them. They don't know they're even existing.
Yeah.
They don't know they're out there. But Alternaween was great because we got 15,000 comics out to people last year and a lot of trick-or-treaters. That was their first comic ever. And now all I could think is all it takes is that one comic. Every single comic creator you know and love, from the greats to the not-so-greats, they all read that one comic that got them on the path of creating their own stories. And that's something that's so important. That's something that last year, those kids got introduced to comics for the first time. And who knows, maybe in 10 or 15 or 20 years, I meet one of these kids at a show and they say, hey, Alterna Comics, you guys were my first ever comic I got. And it was on a Halloween. You never know. And that's the kind of thing to me that's really fun about this. It creates new readers, but it also creates new creators too. And this year so far, we're on pace for about 6,000 comics to be used as trick-or-treats and about 1,000 to be used as donations to children's hospitals. Hopefully, by the time the campaign closes out, we can get more than that, though.
That's awesome. So when does the campaign close out? Are you going to leave it open beyond the initial window on IndieGoGo?
When it closes, it's done. So it's not going to be in demand. It's going to be closing, I believe, midnight Pacific time on the 31st. So we've got about, I think, 30-something hours to go from the time we're obviously talking.
Okay, so we will get this video up very quickly and stop the video and go back the IndieGoGo. So it looks pretty cool. Okay, so going forward, you guys have a lot of plans. You're in Sheetz, which is awesome, because actually Sheetz is, I'm in Western Pennsylvania. Sheetz, they have one like every street corner. It's like an institution here, and actually their HQ is only about an hour from my house. So
no way.
Yeah, oh yeah, I've been by it several times. Yeah, we were actually we were on the one news stations like right next to the Sheetz HQ. So, wow. But yeah, they're all over the place here. So that was awesome when you said Sheetz. It's like, wait, that's like a PA thing, because it is based out of Pennsylvania. It's huge here. Yeah, it's an institution. So
there's none by me. I'm up in New Hampshire, but I know they're in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Virginia, West Virginia, all kinds of states. But I wish there was one by me. That would be fun to see one.
Yeah, they're hard. The further south you get, it gets harder and harder to find, because we used to drive to Florida a lot. And it was like, we're like, well, that's the last Sheetz we're going to see until we come back next week, But no, that's a really good step. And you were talking a little bit about Alterna distribution. I got to ask you about that, because you kind of teased it on Twitter. Is there anything you can talk about that yet?
So Alterna distribution is basically, it's not going to be something that competes head on with Diamond, because we're not going to be able to compete with them head on. And quite frankly, I wouldn't really want to. I want to make sure that we're doing some of the things that they're either not doing or that they can't do. So one of the biggest things is taking care of reorders. So a lot of publishers, Alterna included, we've had problems getting reorders for books into comic shops, because Diamond isn't necessarily set up in a capacity to do that. They're really concerned more about getting the pre-orders out there. They have, and like we said before, there's more comics now than ever before, more publishers than ever before. So they have a full plate and a half. They can't really take on the what now has become a burden in some ways, the burden of reorders. So there's a whole lot of business there that's getting lost with that. So that's something I want to look into, taking care of that. And I also want to open this up into taking care of a lot of the crowdfunders. A lot of those creators don't have distribution, and for whatever reason, one reason or another, they're not going to be able to get into Diamond distribution. So this opens it up for those guys to get their books into stores. We already deal with close to 50 to 60 stores regularly in terms of them ordering directly from us. It's mostly going to be a port of what AlternaAccess.com looks like, only it's going to be sorted by publisher and by genre.
Okay.
and other ways too once it gets launched. But it's going to be a nice way that people can go there. Readers or retailers can go there too, and they can order from the site. And what I mean by the fact that readers and retailers can go there is that the retailers will get a code, a discount code, and that's all. Right then and there, that's it. They don't have to set up a big account. They don't have to do anything complicated. We've been doing this right now with the Alterna Access site, and it's quick and easy and really simple for retailers to get on there and just order a bunch of stuff. In fact, like this week, we've had close to 20 orders from retailers already. So it's something that I want to see expanded into the indie comics community in terms of getting these books into stores, getting a lot of creators on there. And I think it'll be great too, because we can get inventory into this system, keep it separate from the Alterna Comics publishing line, and it'll bring a lot of people to that one site, to Alterna Distribution, because you get all these creators excited about their book. They're used to doing self-promotion. They're used to spreading the word. They're used to connecting with their audience and their readers and getting people interested in their books. So now they have somewhere to direct them after the fact. Because once a campaign ends, a lot of these creators, they don't know what else to do with their book. It becomes, I put it up on a site. Maybe I take it to a show. Maybe I don't know. You know, it turns into there's a lot of things that are logistically it seems very difficult, and for a store to deal with like 100 creators separately to get all these things in, that's even a daunting task on them.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to handle all that kind of stuff.
That's cool. Yeah, that actually is one of the hardest things right now, I think, as an indie creator, you know, especially with comic shops, you know, declining in numbers and Diamond, their thresholds higher than it's ever been, you know, unless you're selling books through like Amazon or something, you know, which we've tried. I mean, we just, you know, drop ship a bunch of stuff to Amazon, but that's a pain in the butt, you know, too. So it's, and you get lost in the soup, you know, Amazon, it's just everything. And, you know, so that definitely is a challenge. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you come up with alternative distribution.
I'm looking forward to getting all that stuff in. It'll probably launch around this time next year.
Okay.
August 2020. We're going to start getting things in the system around March and getting books in there. And I'm going to be offering 2 separate kinds of terms for everybody, because we only want to deal with books that are available right now. I don't want to have a pre-order system, release dates and things like that.
Yeah.
That's all nice. That's good, but it doesn't mean anything until the book is actually out.
Right.
So, you know, you can have your release date, like the current system is very pre-order heavy. But we noticed that a lot of these books, they get either delayed or the release date gets moved, or sometimes the book gets canceled and doesn't even come out.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that the book is ready to go. We can have it in hand and the inventory is there. So creators will get, it's a 40% off cover. 40% of cover. And those are usually distribution terms is pretty standard. And then if they want to do a consignment instead, what we could do is a 50% of the cover. And this way they earn 10% more if they're willing to just wait and see until the books sell. And not sell through retailers, but just sell through Alterna distribution. If you're a really proactive creator, if you're great with promotion, take consignment every time, because you'll make 10% more. And you can just direct people right there. You can direct a store right there. And then they can sign up quick and easy. They get their discount code and they can order your books. And the thing that we're going to do too, that's also going to be really handy for people, we're going to have a separate page with listing the retailers that carry these books. And we're going to list their store, their address, and what books are going to be in their store. What books are they ordering from us? So if it's, you know, your book or my book or someone else's book, you can see, well, what did they order? What are they carrying? Because if I go to that store, I want to know, what am I expecting for them to have? So this will be something too that's really helpful for those creators and for that store to be able to promote, hey, we've got these books in stock, you know, check it out, and you can go right to the site. And if you go to that store and they don't have it, that's sold out. So let the retailer know, hey, you know, I came here looking for this specific book, but you guys don't have it. So they'll go, oh, I got to order more of those, you know, and then they can go right to the Alterna distribution site and get more of those books. So it's just, it helps to work the system a bit. So everybody's kind of in tune with what's going on, and they're aware. I can go get a book here. I can go get the book there. Oh, my local comic shop, they carry these. I didn't know that. It's that kind of thing where you can actually use social media, you can use promotion to get sales.
That's cool. Yeah, because right now it is basically being put on the creators. I think even at Marvel and DC, it seems like it's being put on the creators to promote their own books.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that the current system is frustrating, because one of the biggest things is you can't direct someone to order through Diamond in a really easy and quick way.
No, it's like, go get this code and go to and it's so, and a lot of people just, I think they just throw their hands up in the air. They're like, hey, I'd love to buy your book, but unless I can go to like Amazon, push a button, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. And the thing is too, retailers go, well, you can, maybe a customer can call us, or they can send us an email. Okay. That they can do that. But let's say you have a really hot book, and let's say the system ideally works the way it should, and you have 500 customers that are all crazy for this book, and they're calling your store, they're emailing your store. That's madness. And then if you multiply that by, let's say, even just 50 other titles having the same kind of heat on them, if we all just promote, the system is not built to make that an actual realistic outcome.
Right.
You can't have that. You're going to drive these poor retailers crazy. They need a quick and easy way for a customer to go there, maybe go to a site, do a ship to store option, something like that. Previewsworld.com, if they can get that going. They said 2 years ago they would, but they still haven't.
Right.
If you can get that going, we can all then promote in an effective and easy way. And then it goes to the store. You could even prepay for it, let's say. And then the store gets a guaranteed purchase, and you get your book in a nice and quick fashion, as opposed to what it is right now, where there's a lot of guesswork there. And if you go to the store and you drive over there, let's say, and you hand out, you hand them in the written form that they want you to hand them, then the poor store people have to look through all the handwriting, which is, anyone that's worked retail knows the worst thing on earth is a stack of paperwork with everyone's handwriting. It's all over the place. You don't know, is this a 7? Is this a 4? Is this a 1? I don't know. And the order codes are specific. So you have to make sure you're ordering what it is they want. Everything like that. It's all over the place. It doesn't make it easy for anybody. So we're all about trying to make it easy for people with Alterna distribution. Yeah,
it sounds like a lot of what you guys are doing is just common sense. Put the comics where people can find them, keep them at a price point that's attractive. There's an impulse buy, make the comics easy for retailers and people to order. I mean, you'd think the comic book industry would have caught on years ago, but it seems like they're a little slow in the uptake.
Yeah, it's something that of course I would love to see. I would love to see Diamond be able to do something like that, and I'd love to see them be able to correct some of the things that have gone a bit askew, being kind. But I'm tired of just kind of waiting around. There's no reason anymore to just wait around, and the Alterna distribution stuff being based off of what we've been doing for the past almost 2 years now with our own books. We were kind of the beta test for that. Will this system work? Is this actually feasible? Can we do this? Will retailers pick up on this? Do they like it? And the answer to everything so far has been yes. So there's no reason for me to think, if we get in a larger variety of books from a lot of different people, everybody promoting where to go, everybody talking it up, everybody getting the retailers, their local comic shop involved, there's no reason that this thing shouldn't work out the way that I'm really thinking it will.
Okay, it's awesome. Well, you got any final thoughts, Peter, for anyone who wants to break into comics now?
For anyone that wants to break into comics right now, I'd say that make sure you work on your fundamentals first and foremost. Everyone wants to kind of just get a comic made, right? They don't really think, well, I've never really drawn things. I've never really written anything. They just go, I'll just make a comic. And you could just make a comic, but you put yourself in a much better position to succeed if you study up about, how should I write, character development, plot pacing, things like, if you're an artist, composition, angles, perspective, textures, all kinds of different things that would seem boring You know, don't just draw like the cool action poses. You have to draw the backgrounds. You have to draw the uninteresting stuff. Really see, can you do it? Can you sit at an art table for 10, 12 hours a day and draw and do that, you know, a couple times a week, as an indie especially, and juggle everything else that you've got going on too. So once you're done with building the fundamentals up and done with creating the actual comic, you can really start to see, okay, I really want to get into this. Now what do I do? All right, well, now the next step is to promote, to share your work, to get it out there, get people interested in your stuff, network with other creators, network with readers, let them know, hey, you know, I've got something, I hope you guys can check it out, let me know what you think, and be open to that criticism, the push and pull of praise and criticism. Don't blindly believe all the praise you receive, and don't let every criticism be a death blow. A lot of creators, it'll be one or the other sometime, and then you end up going down a path where you lose yourself a bit. So it's good when people like your stuff, and when people don't like your stuff, just see what you could take from that. Be honest with your work at all times. Know where you need to improve, and then the criticism won't sting as much, especially if it's a nice constructive piece of criticism. It'll help you grow. So at that point in time, once you feel you're ready, then you can either go to a crowdfunder, you can submit it to a publisher, all that kind of stuff. But be aware, you know, be patient with yourself. Don't rush into this kind of thing. There's various steps you can always take at every point in time to make sure that, okay, making comics, this is what I want to do. This means a lot to me. I have to do it. And I want to do it, and I feel like I can do it. A lot of people, they just jump right in. And some people will say, yeah, you should just jump right in. And you should jump right into following what it is you want to do, but you want to put yourself in a position to succeed.
All right, that is some very good advice, Peter. Thank you so much for that and for your time. So where can people find you guys on the internet?
They can find us at alternacomics.com, and they can find me personally on Twitter is usually the best place, at Peter Simeti. Make sure to follow us as well at Alterna Comics. And I also have a YouTube show. I talk to creators all the time at Alterna, and other creators too that are not a part of Alterna, just to kind of talk and get their opinions on the industry, on different strategies, creation process, all that stuff. And that's Alterna Comics on YouTube as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter. And thank you so much for all of you for listening. It's been a lot of fun. Always a lot of fun to have creative types on the show. We want to help you create stuff. I know we do a lot of, we have a lot of criticism of the industry right now, but we really do love comics, love animation. We want to see you make your own stuff. So we will talk to you later. Goodbye. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.